The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Welcome everybody to Cherry Picking, and thank you for joining us. Now, we do have a special guest. He is joining us in a bit, but of course it wouldn't be Cherry Picking without my main man, Matt Harrison. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, all good, Craig, and looking very forward to welcoming on our special guest today. Someone who, back in the day, I got all my Cherries news off, I suppose, really. Sitting there eagerly waiting for him to come on at about 20 past 6 each evening. A lot of people may guess who he is now, and we'll let you know very shortly who he is. And he's going to have some great stories to tell and some great memories, and looking really forward to it.
Definitely. Well, I tell you what, let's go through firstly what is on Cherry Picking this week. So, first off, we've got our weekly game, Guess the Cherry. Then we're going to be covering off the global brands of Leos in Dubai and also WWE. What's that all about? Well, we'll tell you all. And we'll also look ahead to the 125th anniversary match with Newcastle, of course, this Sunday. And we'll tell you who the special guest is as well. We'll take a trip down memory lane with TV legend Andy Steggall and his Dean Court memories as well. So there's lots to look forward to. So keep tuned for that. But I tell you what, Matt, let's start off with Guess the Cherry, and I'll let you do the honours.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so this week's Guess the Cherry is, I was going to say the name again. That would have been naughty, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would have ruined it.
Was born in Southampton in 1978. He started his career with the Saints, and it finished at Crawley. He was signed at Dean Court by Lee Bradbury. He played in our friendly match against Real Madrid, played 46 times for Bournemouth, and has now gone into coaching with Leeds United, Middlesbrough being his past clubs, and I believe he's still currently with Plymouth. So who is he?
There we are.
And the answer to this week's Guess the Cherry, we will give you on next week's episode.
Yes, most definitely. So come back next week and we'll tell you who Guess the Cherry was. But I tell you what, let's look at our global sponsorship deals and bring those up, because we've been seen in Dubai, one of my favourite places in the world. Lovely over there. And never did I think when I wore my AFC Bournemouth shirt over there. Never did I think that we were going to be a year later on boards. And then, I'm sure a lot of people were looking at me like, they're a Premier League team, aren't they? But who are they? Or probably thought I was supporting AC Milan. But of course, there we go. We are global. We are in the UAE, and the partnership with Leos there, and yeah, very, very impressive across Dubai and the Emirates. So yeah, it's a good partnership. I like Leos. I think this is, as much criticism that's being given to the main sponsors, this is a sponsor that, I think could really, really help the brand of the club a lot
Mm,
more probably than the
yeah,
main sponsor
massively.
could.
It's a shame, really. They're not on the front of the shirt, isn't it? Really, with obviously the ongoing dislike of the current main sponsor on the shirt, which I understand completely why people are not liking it, not just from the name, but from what it's associated with as well. But
Mm.
this company, I mean, I've seen quite a bit of their stuff that they're building um, around the world, and they're building some magnificent. I think they've got some townhouses they're about to sell for about £7.5 million each. I mean, they're beautiful
Yeah.
buildings. I mean, if we could afford one, I'm sure we'd all buy one because they're absolutely beautiful. So yeah, it's a definitely when they agreed the deal during the American tour, it's definitely a brand that the club wants to be associated with, and it's given the club excellent exposure in areas where the Premier League is massive.
I might have to do a Cherry Abroad season 2, mightn't I?
Hmm.
Hold that thought. But also, we have got a new sponsor in WWE 2K24. So I don't know much about wrestling myself. I've never really been a big wrestling fan, but this is a really, really good deal. So, AFC Bournemouth are thrilled to announce an exciting new partnership with the globally renowned WWE 2K video game series. The groundbreaking collaboration, I'll put my teeth in a moment, will see the Cherries be the first Premier League club that WWE 2K have formed a tag team with. Consequently, seeing several digital campaigns that will entertain fans and showcase the immersive experience of WWE 2K24. The WWE 2K4 franchise prides itself on delivering an authentic wrestling simulation that celebrates the past, present, and future of sports entertainment, featuring stunning visuals, gripping gameplay, iconic legends and superstars, and immersive gameplay modes. WWE 2K leaves it all in the ring. Supporters who are familiar with the titles in the franchise will already know that the game provides an outstanding wrestling experience. And Rob Mitchell, the commercial director, of course, has said partnering with WWE 2K is a fantastic opportunity for us to engage with our supporters in a new and innovative way. This collaboration will combine the thrill of WWE 2K's gameplay with the dynamic world of Premier League football. And Bruce Yang, Senior Director of the franchise and partnership strategy, all sports at 2K, also commented WWE 2K and AFC Bournemouth make a formidable tag team in the ring and on the pitch. I see what you've done there, Bruce.
Mm.
Um, we're thrilled to partner with the Cherries and wish them great success this season. Coming together, anything is possible. The AFC Bournemouth themed content will be available in the coming weeks, and fans can stay updated on all the exciting development by following WWE 2K and AFC Bournemouth on their respective social media channels. And I tell you what, if you're listening to this, Bruce, if Fletch isn't a character that you can put into the ring, I will be very, very, very disappointed, and I'll send my copy of the game back. So make sure you do it. Um, so there we go. It's quite exciting, isn't it? But Like I say, I'm not a wrestling fan. It's
No,
something that never really.
I'm not. But if you think of all the gaming fans that like, football
Mm,
and like Bournemouth, and we're going to have exposure within a computer game now. It's
yeah.
only great for the club going forward, isn't it? And again, just like the global branding that we've got currently, it just adds to that. I think it's a fantastic collaboration. Like I say, not massive on wrestling myself.
Mhm.
You know, don't play wrestling games, but there's people out there that do, and AFC Bournemouth will have exposure through that. So I think it's fantastic.
Who do you reckon the characters will be?
Well,
AFC.
I don't know if they'd be putting characters in there, but I, yeah, it would be funny to see Fletch on there, wouldn't it? For
Yeah.
definite.
Can you imagine Iriola on there? Could he be on there? I
Mm,
don't know.
yeah.
I think Solanke would
I
have
think
been with his
I think let
mask.
I think let the wrestlers do the wrestling and just have the AFC Bournemouth branding all around the computer game or
Yeah.
whatever it is they do. Yeah, let
I'll
let
be
the wrestlers wrestle.
I'll be disappointed if Fletch isn't in the game. And do you know what? It'd be quite funny for him to be in it as well. There you are. Can you imagine a Matt Harrison character?
Mm. Me
Yeah,
and Fletch
you and Fletch
tag
tag
team,
team.
tag team, tag team champions with our AFC Bournemouth briefs on,
Mm.
eh? Yeah.
Well, they better not put me in it because at the end of
I
the day, I'll always get injured.
well, me, Fletch would be doing all the all the rock moves, and there'd be me doing the belly flop. So, um, hey ho, let's move swiftly on.
I'd probably end up breaking my ankle on it, and that'd be game over. So I'd be
Yeah, that'd
crap
just be
on it.
walking to the ring.
Yeah. But let's talk about the 125-year game, of course, against Newcastle United on Sunday. And Iriola is looking forward to Newcastle Test for the 125th anniversary game. Um, so he's looking forward to facing former Cherries boss, of course, Sir Eddie Howe, as the club celebrates its 125th anniversary, knowing how Newcastle performed and won down to 10 men against Southampton. Iriola knows his squad have to be on guard to face the Magpies' high intensity, high press, but insists that the Cherries will make it hard for Howe's men. He said, "We have to prepare very well because the demands of playing against Newcastle United will be very high. They have won against Southampton, playing with 10 players. They are a team that defends very well, attacks very fast, has individual players who can make the difference. We have to. We will have to be at our very best if we want to have some success against them. We will try to do it because if we aren't at our level, I don't think that we are an easy team for them as well. So if we are at our level, I don't think we'll be an easy team for them as well." Iriola could, of course, hand debut to record signing Evan Nielsen on Sunday after completing a reported £40.3 million deal for the Porto striker last week. The Brazilian frontman was said to have been monitored by Newcastle United over the last 12 months after impressing for the Portuguese Giants throughout the time. After completing the signing, Bournemouth chief executive Neil Blake told the club website, "We are delighted to bring someone with an immense pedigree to AFC Bournemouth. Evan Nielsen is a hugely sought after striker, and for us to bring him to the club in a record breaking deal shows our ambition and intent. Having scored 25 goals last season, including goals in the Champions League, we feel that his experience and ability, despite only being 24, will help us to match our ambitions moving forwards. It's well known that we were keen on bringing a striker to the football club, and for us to complete the deal so quickly is a testament to our recruitment team." And bloody hell, this is exciting, isn't it? Let's be honest, because did we ever think, because of course we're going to have our special guest on in a second, but did we ever think when, our special guest was reporting on the Cherries that we was going to have somebody that costs 40 million plus?
Well, when our special guest Andy was reporting on the Cherries, we couldn't find 40 grand for a player, let alone 40 million. So,
40p.
yeah, yeah, and it would have had to have been down to the player share and
Yeah.
things like that to raise the money to bring someone in. And a player of this caliber at this price was definitely not within the price range, shall we say? But yeah, very looking forward to bringing Andy on now.
Definitely, definitely. Before we do that, though, we do have to say thank you to our sponsors who continue to sponsor this channel. Of course, Dental on the Banks. Here's a little bit about them now. What they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, we do also have a very special guest on our cherry picking this week, and a lot of you will notice him from covering the Cherries plus other clubs within the region. It is a pleasure to welcome onto the show Andy Steggall. How are you doing, Andy?
Really well. Thank you.
Not a problem at all. Pleasure to have you with us. So, what we've actually done as well in this is that done a selection of your favorite bits. You've actually sent those in to us. So let's bring up all the slides. So here we go. So Andy's Dean Court memories, but there is also other clubs as well thrown in here. So let's kick it off with your first ever game covering the Cherries, which was AFC Bournemouth 2, Manchester United 0 in the FA Cup third round. Big one to kick off, wasn't it, really, Andy?
Well, big one, because I'd been in television about an hour and a half. That morning, I had actually started in television from local radio. So, rather nervous and all the rest of it. And the boss says, right, you're going down with, sadly, the late and great, but late David Bobin. Amazing, brilliant presenter and reporter. And he said, right, you're going down there and we're going to pick up all the reaction to this great victory. So within, by lunchtime, I'm now interviewing Harry Redknapp about what was, just the town went mad. It was, an extraordinary game. There's a kind of follow-on to that same week. I had to also interview Loring McMenemy. So this was a baptism of fire because he was in his pomp then, wasn't he, at Southampton?
Yeah.
So these are the first two interviews I'd ever done in television. Two of the greats, basically. And years later, so we're talking about, I don't know, 2008, I guess, when the ITV Soccer Night program that I'd been presenting for a few years came to an end. I just phoned them both up and said, you were my first ever interviews. Will you be my last ones on this program? And damn me, they both said yes, and we had an absolute ball. And the stories and the stuff they could talk about, as you well know, of course, with Harry, was just exceptional. But it was a privilege. Either means as a reporter, I didn't ask them hard enough questions because they were clearly quite happy to do this. But nonetheless, it shows, I suppose I hope there was respect both ways. And I guess there was because they wouldn't have bothered. But it was interesting kind of bookmarks, beginning and end, to the ITV bit, the ITV career I had, and then I went on to Sky Sports and other things. But wow, yeah, what a start! What a way to say hello to AFC Bournemouth because I'd come from a different area. This was amazing.
Did you see what Harry was going to become? Of course, he's a fantastic manager for West Ham and Spurs and other clubs as well. Did you see that, when you spoke to him back then?
I think it was such a heady and intoxicating time then,
Hmm.
that it was of the moment. But I suppose in itself, how Harry could carry a moment and hold a moment, he's become famous for that. Imperturbable and funny and humorous, and really direct, and he's a great man of football.
Hmm.
Um, it was all there in all that intoxicating stuff that was going around. Harry was Harry. Now, if you can hold your head above when all others, whatever the rest of that poem is, but in football, the chaos of football and the management, my goodness, I mean, who would be a manager? Is wow. Um, you know, Having now spoken to many of them over many years, it's a fragile existence. Wow, isn't it?
Hmm.
So you've got to have something about you. So clearly he had that, and we would obviously I got to know him quite well at Portsmouth as well. So yeah, you just saw it bloom. But Harry was Harry, and I think that did say that he was going to go to great stuff.
Yep, most definitely, and he did, and of course you can see him on this very channel as well, several times over as well. So, you then move to the other side. So after that, um,
Yeah,
brief encounter at Dean Court, you moved over to the other side of TVS, and reported on Brighton, Gillingham, and of course Maidstone United as well. Um, do tell us a little bit about that time, because it was a bit of a rocky period for quite a lot of these clubs, wasn't it?
yeah. So I don't know if people know, Television South, as Meridian now, has two halves. It's so there's the east and the west. Brighton is kind of the middle bit. So there's every night there are two programs going out simultaneously from for the two regions. So I spent a lot of time in and around in the Kent area. So we had Maidstone, Brighton, we had Charlton as well actually, and
Mhm.
Gillingham. But you're right about Maidstone. They had grafted all their history. They had grafted to get into the Football League at a time when you didn't get there by dint of promotion. You had to be voted in,
Mhm.
and they got there really close. They were close a couple of times, and the Football League voted to keep their own team. I can't remember who it was, but they kept them in the league. You're not going to vote for someone else. You're going to, you keep together,
Mhm.
don't you? So how anyone got from semi-pro into the big national leagues, I don't know. And Maidstone fell foul of this over and over again. They got there. They clambered on, and they had a couple of really decent seasons. Actually, they were doing all right. But of course, like a lot of these things, what if you do on the field? It's can it be sustained off the field? And
Mhm.
they got into the most terrible trouble. But you are talking about one particular time. Every time a side goes into administration, do we really think it's going to be the end of the road? Do we really think there's always going to be a way out, isn't it? Somehow,
Yeah.
something's going to happen. Someone's going to miracle up some way of keeping a club alive, and it didn't happen for Maidstone. And I'm in that meeting, and it was a business meeting. It was so matter of fact, besuited people in a room saying Maidstone are liquidated, gone. That was it. In a sense, and all football's all around that energy and that atmosphere and that passion. And this was clinical and quiet and matter of fact, because these were business people, these were accountants, these were people who were very good at their job, saying
Mhm.
this is the end of the road. That was it, gone. Mason didn't have a football club. I mean, wow, they've come back. What about that cup run they had last season? Well, I mean, um, there is hope. There's always hope somehow to literally rebuild. But I swear that has informed how I've gone about doing those stories, because I know obviously we're going to come back to the Cherries problems, but I hope and I think that's definitely informed how I've covered those stories over the years, because I saw the end game, and it's horrible. It was very unpleasant.
And of course, the other two clubs that are mentioned there as well, Gillingham and Brighton, and also you can throw Charlton into there as well,
Yeah.
have all suffered similar sort of issues. It didn't go luckily as far as Maidstone, but they've all had financial struggles in the past, haven't they?
Yeah, and I suppose Brighton especially. I mean, wow. Uh, Talking about tenacity. Um, you lose your ground; it's being taken from under you. Uh, we've been talking about they are they still the winner of that quiz question? Who played furthest away in their home games when
Yeah.
when they went to Priestfield and went to Gillingham to
Mhm.
play their home games? We used to go there. Then the Withdean, which was an athletics track that the toil and the commitment and the determination for that club to get back. Um, I think there's some similarities between both your clubs. You have seen the dark side. You've seen what it looks like, and I think you've been forged by that, both and therefore are enjoying all the more um, what you've got now, both of you. But you know where you've come from. Now, of course, you've got loads of kids, and you've got the whole generation of both clubs have got a generation of fans who haven't seen that,
Mm.
and that's we're all sounding a bit old and wise or not, and just old basically. But you've seen it, and you go, wow, there is a history, and there is something between both those clubs and your club especially, where you've looked over the precipice and you said, no, we're going to fight, we're going to come back. And that makes well, you tell me, what do you feel about being in the Premier League after I've seen all the ups and
Mhm.
downs and ins and outs of football league days. I haven't really been as a professional done much with Bournemouth in the Premier League. How are you guys enjoying it?
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, definitely beats like watching Accrington Stanley on a wet Tuesday night with 2,000 people in Dean Court, I must admit. But yeah,
Oh, I was there too, I'm sure.
yeah. I mean, you never would ever have thought. I mean, the stuff that the club's gone through and to be where it is now is from someone that's been going since I was 4 years old, so 1990. When my dad first started taking me, and through the Pulis years and into the Machin years with Winter Gardens, and you just never ever would have believed that you'd ever see your club Bournemouth on Match of the Day, which is
Yeah.
it's fantastic to see.
You mean it wasn't good enough on soccer night?
Oh, it was great on there. Yeah, don't
Oh
get
yeah.
me wrong. No, don't get me wrong. But
No, believe me. I mean, it's miracle stuff, and it's a joy. And I suppose it's living in the moment. You are
yeah,
living in the moment. That's the feeling I get. And I might be completely wrong. And people watching this going, "Yeah, you're talking a load of rubbish, Andy." But it's the idea that you're valuing what you've got now. And I think there are other clubs who probably think they're a bit bigger and grander, who think their expectation or what they think is theirs by right. Yeah, hey, come on. I think there is a sense of you forget that what you're actually watching and what you're experiencing is very special right here, right now, and that you don't get ahead of yourselves. And a lot of the fans who will bleat about, oh well, we're not doing this, not doing that. Come on, you know, think of there aren't many clubs in the Premier League, and probably again, it's come back to that Brighton and you. There aren't many who have been there, who've come from where you've come from, and won and now holding your heads up and not just being part of it. You're a serious part of the Premier League now. That's absolutely amazing, amazing.
One thing that always sticks with me though is, if you had asked me in 2008 and said, "Oh, Bournemouth will be in the Premier League," in 7 years' time, I would have said you're absolutely barking mad.
Yeah.
But the thing is now there's that generation, like you say, Andy, that have experienced all that. I am petrified of that ever coming to an end. And I guess you can't think of that because it's happened for so many teams. It happened to Southampton for a while. It did happen for Portsmouth. It's happened to Reading. It's happened to so many clubs around the region and it's crumbled. I guess it's that management of making sure that we don't get ahead of ourselves, be grateful of where we are, and appreciate where we've come from.
Precisely. And when you say things like that, being grateful for where you are, that's like, oh well, that's no ambition. That's that. Oh, well, thank you. We've got what we've got. Of course, this is a really hard professional game, and
Mhm.
every person and anyone who is a football player. I mean, they're all winners. No one. I think that is something that actually sets them apart, sets any professional in any sport apart. They all hate losing. You've got to win at anything, whether it's tiddlywinks or whatever. They are winners by, that's what it is in their DNA. So to say, oh, well, well done, this is good enough. There's no such thing. Of course there's not. But to respect and enjoy it is something completely different, I think, and is of huge value. And to a community that everyone talks about, oh, we're a big club. And everyone will go, well, so Portsmouth, we're the biggest club. Southampton, we're the biggest club. Well, do you know what? You can't, by physical numbers, cram people into your stadium. And what you do about that, that's another. You can have 20 podcasts and podcasts about that. But the sense of identity with a community is extraordinary. It's that thing that people look up. I did something with the Football League, one of their chairmen a few years ago, who was saying it's like the church hall. The football clubs are like the church hall. They are the centre of the community now, because often it isn't defined by many things, but football clubs do, and that is a really interesting way of explaining it and thinking about it, especially because it's the community work. It is how you are physically. Your hands are in that community, and you're doing stuff. You're putting back, as do all of the Football League sides and all of the clubs, either obligation. No, I don't think it is obligation. I think it's because they really want to. I mean, you guys know that. This is the church hall. This is the rallying point for a community, and Bournemouth that's where your club is in your community, definitely.
Well, let's go on to the next part, because of course you come back to covering the Cherries, and you covered our great escape of 94-95. What was that like for you?
No, I can't remember who it was who told me, but they said at Christmas, we need snookers. If we're not going to get relegated, we need snookers. It was, you've been and gone. But I suppose it's and it's going to get replicated later on, isn't it? In which I know we'll talk about. Is that you've got nothing to lose? You've just got to keep grinding it out and hope that something happens. But you're looking at that side there that you've got off in that picture. These were young Fletcher, young.
Nobody can miss him.
No one can miss him. But it's there's 2 or 3 players, and I was thinking about the auto windscreens, and I got that team out. Those kind of you have that kind of fun thing. Who would you want? What kind of player who'd fight for your life? Who do you put up there? Well, I tell you what, there's 2 or 3 there, and there were a few that actually in and around that Bournemouth time that you'd certainly put in that category of absolute scrappers. It wasn't surprising if anyone was going to ride the luck, get the opportunity. It was going to be Bournemouth, but it was harum scarum, wasn't it? Blimey. What do you remember of it?
Well, I remember the away game at Brentford, which I think they needed to win to go up, if I remember rightly. I think when we played them, and then we played, was it Shrewsbury on the Tuesday night? And then that's when we stayed up. I think Scott Mean scored, if I remember rightly. My first ever pitch invasion. That's the that's the biggest fondest memory of. I was about 9, I think, at the time, and that's the biggest memory of that season for me. But I have got the book, the Great Escape book.
Oh wow!
Proper battered over the years, but covers every game. And sometimes you flick through this and you think, how on earth did they stay up? But they managed to get a run towards the end of the season, didn't they? And
How far adrift were they? Because I can't really remember that.
Sorry, say again.
How far adrift were you?
Snookers for a start. Didn't we have like 9 points on Boxing Day or something like that? I think it was. Was it 9 points on Boxing Day?
Very, very many. I remember that.
Because I think Machin come in with virtually no points, I think, when Machin come in. August lost. Yeah, Machin come in on a 4-1 defeat against York City away on the 3rd of September. So yeah, I think it was about 9 points at Christmas, if memory serves me right.
Machin was very decent to us. He really was. He was outstanding to us.
Yeah, he's a great manager. I always thought, man. Fantastic.
We lost the first 7 games before a draw and then a win against Cardiff at home, but then lost the subsequent 5. So, yeah, it wasn't a particularly very good start. And like I say, 9 points on Boxing Day. It did look like curtains.
Yeah, it's amazing though. He could spot good talent, couldn't he, Machin? I mean, he brought in like a young Matt Holland, Stevie Robinson from Spurs, Neil Young, I think, coming from Spurs. Jamie Vincent come on loan from Crystal Palace. So he made use of what he had by adding decent young players to the squad, from what I can remember.
I mean, you're talking about scrappers. I put most of them in that category because they would all put a shift in. Really would put a proper shift in. Yeah. The one interesting thing is because now, and I understand why, that a lot of the PR teams at a lot of the clubs will allow the TV crews in for a few minutes to get a few shots. And anyway, the websites have become essential. You don't want the traffic going to the BBC or ITV or Sky anywhere else. You want to be able to sell and obviously offer something in your own platform. I get that entirely. But of course, in those days, we were the only thing around.
Yeah.
So you went down to training, you could spend all day there. And just as a lover of sport and a lover of football, I got paid, and it wasn't just some of the really rather exciting and wonderful things that you managed to, big events you went to, kind of daily. You could go and watch a team train, but you could see just how you train, what kind of routines you could see. You could see everything about a club just unfold before you, and I was getting paid just to be there. People would spend loads of money to have had the opportunity. I know how flipping lucky I've been to do that. But I always remember that how detailed Mel Machin was on set pieces. It's all, Arsenal have got this big thing about, hey, this looks pretty much like the dark arts with Arsenal. And I'm saying that as, if I can admit it, I'm an Arsenal fan, have been since 1967 when I first went with my dad to Highbury. But little set pieces, how to how a player would get out of a space for another one to come in. I remember this one thing they did where, there was a swap of personnel. One span out, one went in, and it all had to work on the drop of a hand and when the kick was coming in. And Mel made them work it again and again and again and again until they got the timing right on it. And I don't know any other situation, but that seemed to be far ahead of its time, because now that's 10 a penny. Everyone's going, oh well, they've done this, they've done that. Here's this cool move. Bournemouth are doing it donkeys ages ago. But he was great. He was really great and really decent to us. Because I don't think he was, I'm not sure he liked the cameras that much. I mean, I think he was quite a self-effacing guy. So us lot coming along and pointing a flipping lens in his face, and I mean, it's a weird thing to do, isn't it? Truly. So, but yeah, great days. Really enjoyed that.
Well, of course, we did have a night that I guess we did. Well, the run up we didn't enjoy. It was a very nerve wracking time. And of course, the Winter Gardens, which meant everybody pulled together to save this football club. We've had Trevor Watkins on the show as well. And I believe he was there as well, Andy, wasn't he?
Yeah. I can. Oh gosh, I can remember it vividly. I can see in my mind's eye now. What can I think of? I can think of just this fiver floating on top of a bucket of fivers. But I'd seen pensioners just pulling them out of from the wallet. Now fiver then. I mean, it sounds a bit. We're not talking about Victorian days, but fiver from a pensioner's money. The idea that every little and the act of every little being felt to be enough, because you're talking about, what is it, 300 grand or something. It was a
Yeah.
big sum, but the idea
Yeah.
that anyone thought that they could make a contribution and make a difference with a fiver of their money, that collective bucket of determination of those fivers and coins was an extraordinary sight, because you were talking about big sums. How was this ever going to do anything? How was this going to change Bournemouth's opportunities? Possibly not, but people wanted to. Talking about support for a club, that was extraordinary. But I can still see this one fiver, because the camera caught it.
Mhm.
Just this one fiver just on top of this bucket. I can see that in my mind's eye now. Matt Holland, it was captain at the time, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really young. And I have talked to him since, because he's been a guest on a couple of programs of mine. And we didn't talk about it. Just backstage, we were talking about the shock of it, for this young man to experience that, but also with that authority as captain, which he did with grace and an amazing strength and confidence for someone so young. I remember him on the stage, looking kind of aghast at what was happening around him, and Mel Machin as well that night. And I did look back, because I remember his speech, and I've got no recordings of it, and I found it on the web, on the internet before we came on today, because so I can't assume this is what he said, but I remember it stuck with me. I've got him as saying, "You marvelous, marvelous people, I am so nervous." Think what he was saying he was nervous about. "I played in 2 cup finals. One was won, one we lost, but this is our cup final, and we need to win it." Now, I can remember that we talked about him being that, not the most very self-deprecating guy, not full of it, not the big I am. It was it was emotional, powerful, and didn't mean a thing. There was no certainty that the club was going to exist even 3 days later. That could have been the end of it, despite everything that happened that night. But as the power of it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And if you think of that in contrast to my, that clinical day with Maidstone, for me personally, the contrast was absolutely extraordinary. Uh, how is it remembered, and how do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, my memories of it is well similar to yours. Is just the community putting their hands in their pockets just to try and save the local football club. It was a surreal night, wasn't it? Really, I mean, even kids of my age putting their pocket money in the buckets, and
Right.
and I think the biggest cheer of the night, if I remember rightly, was from the receiver. I think, because I think he got permission from the Football League
Yeah.
to play the next game, which was that
Yeah.
Bristol City away, or was it Blackpool at home? Anyway,
I
that
think it
was
was
the
Bristol
biggest cheer.
City. I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, because Ian Cox scored the winner. I think, if I remember rightly, I think we beat them 1-0, and they were doing quite well at the time. But that I remember that being the biggest roar of the night, that the Football League had given us permission to carry on playing. Which, yeah, you look back on it now, and it's you see that.
Yeah.
I can still see in my head the Winter Gardens just full, which is
Yeah.
no longer there now, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think Willow had just been relieved of his duties, and he turned up, and
Yeah.
yeah, an unreal, a surreal night.
And Trevor kind of ended up with the mantle. I'm not sure he ever saw his career and everything going in that direction. It kind of opened up, and it was there's no one else standing there. So, mate, Trevor, on you go. And a very eloquent man, and managed to encapsulate and for us, we'd be brutal. You're looking for the soundbite. You want someone who could talk in sound bites, because we could have a lovely conversation, but you're looking for the 5.5 seconds, the 15 words. Everyone speaks about 3 words a second. You're looking for 20 seconds tops of someone putting something and encapsulating all that was required. And bless Trevor, he was absolutely flipping brilliant at that. Absolutely brilliant, and knew how to package that emotion for in our terms for television. He was absolutely amazing. And has gone on, that has sent him on a career that's very sports orientated ever since, of course.
Mm.
I seem to remember he actually said that as well. He didn't really ask for the job, did he? But he did it
No.
because he wanted to. He wanted to see the
Yeah,
club survive. So
yeah.
we've got
Yeah,
a lot to thank Trevor Watkins for. But
absolutely. Yeah,
you did mention as well there, Matty Holland, and there's a picture of one of the collection buckets as well.
yeah.
Somebody out putting in £1, but um, you know, he was an inspirational player for us, wasn't he, as a football club? But he was, like you say, he was so important on the night.
You've had a few though, haven't you? Um,
Yeah.
Young men who have really played with such pride, but and that flipping good player. My
Yeah.
goodness, what wasn't it? Wasn't he a good player? Um, I hope he's listening.
Yeah.
And the clubs he went on to play will all say the same. That is
Yeah.
that sense of you know of belonging. The idea that you know I get a bit ticked sometimes with football fans that go, oh, they're not being loyal to the shirt or whatever because they've moved on. I defy anyone to have the challenge that every pro footballer has. We don't go to work and think, do you know, I could sit at this desk today and I could have a career ender. But
Yeah.
because they're training every day, that is actually the truth of every footballer. You could end your career could be taken away from you. Medical skills mean that probably that's less likely than it used to be. But your career could end any which day, and
Mhm.
your ability to earn money and yeah, bless them, some big money could just stop. Well, do you know what? You've got to look after number one. And actually, the pecking order, and as the young kids through academies, um, they're hung. That you're hanging on them. You might get to the next 3 months, and the next 3 months.
Mhm.
Well, we might keep you, we might not. In a sense, the shaping of professional football starts from a very early age. That the club will think about you, but it is at the club's direction. You haven't got a say in this. So you are hardening both the skills and the ability and the determination and the ability to play the game of football. But mentally, in terms of being a business person, that's kind of getting hardened too, because no one's looking out for you. And as you're growing, the guy next to you could also be could be taking your place. I mean, it's dog eat dog, but my God, I tell you what, it's a hard life. No wonder you go, okay, there's a better offer. I'm off. Don't kind of blame them.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think there's some places without getting into details of things you think, cool, that was taking the mick. But I think we tend to forget what it must be like to grow up. And I've seen a lot. I saw for a little bit. I saw quite a lot of the academy, and I will tell you now. Actually, at the time, I knew a little bit about the academy. Um, I think Bournemouth were completely different. I think they were. Um, what am I going to say here? My son Tom was with the academy for a bit,
Mhm.
for a couple of years, just on the edges, not on the main one. But I saw how he was treated, so this became personal, and they were terrific. They were absolutely terrific. And I said to him, you're gonna put a Bournemouth shirt on. You're gonna play against some great teams. You're gonna have a lot of fun. And one day, someone's probably going to come up, shake your hand, and go, "Tom, thanks, mate. That's the end of the road." Well, walk with your head held high. You just had an opportunity that thousands and thousands of kids your age could only dream about, and you had that experience. So just fill your boots and love it. Just go out and love it. So that's funny. That's a very personal thing. But having done other stories about some other um, youth academies and things. Oh dear, oh dear. Um, hard world. It's not surprising they go. But going back to the point, which I've kind of waffled around here, of course, some players just play for the shirt, and I know that's kind of what does that mean? But actually, some people just in just the club becomes them.
Yeah.
And you've got one right there, but you've had several. You really have had several in your club.
Yeah.
I think we'll cover off somebody else in a little while, who, of course, plays for the shirt ball played for the shirt every single time he ran on the pitch, and he's already been mentioned a couple of times. I think you probably guessed there, Andy. But
Yes,
um,
yes. Who's that?
oh wow, let's say he's the big man, the big man.
Oh, the big man.
Yeah, but of course, you also covered the auto windscreen shield final against
Yeah,
Grimsby. Bit of a
yeah.
gutting day in the end, but a great day out for the fans, wasn't it?
Oh, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And we went up with the team the day before when they get a tour around Wembley, and we were allowed to go onto the pitch with them as they were walking around, taking it all in. And Jimmy Glass, your goalkeeper, was next to me, and I just got the camera rolling. Said, "Jimmy, what you thinking about? What's going through your head?" And he just said, "Oh, make some saves and break some hearts. That's what I'm going to do. Make some saves and break some hearts." Unfortunately, it was Cherries' hearts that got broken in the end. Um, but it was a special day, special day. And that side, I'm looking, you had Eddie Howe on that side, Ian Cox, John Bailey, who scored, of course. It was what a start. Russell Beersmore, another great. Steve Robinson, we've already talked about. Fletcher, we've talked about. Neil Young. I mean, Jamie Vincent. I mean, that was a heck of a side for that level of football. I mean, this was quite a special team you had then.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. First game of football, I bawled my eyes out crying too as well when that golden goal went in. Yeah, such a magical day. I mean, it was a magical run to the final as well. I know we had a bye in the first round, if I remember rightly, and then Frank Rowling, the centre back, seemed to become the star of the rounds, didn't he? He was always seemed to be scoring,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I still say to this day, if he had played that day, I think Bournemouth would have won it.
yeah, yeah.
Magical.
Yeah, you were right. You were right for it. It's not like those big occasions. Teams can freeze.
Mm,
Bournemouth didn't.
mm.
Bournemouth, I think we're going to talk about one time when you actually just had a calypso day well, it wasn't at Wembley, was it? It was in Wales, but um, there's not many days like that. But no one can walk off that pitch and say they hadn't put a shift in that day. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, the performance was definitely there. Just
And what
unlucky
was it
that.
like going up? What was it like being in the crowd? Because we're in our kind of ivory tower, being a bunch of lovies, so
Well,
we're under the camera. But
yeah, we got the train up, and the train was just packed with Bournemouth fans, and
yeah,
all I remember is coming out the tube at Wembley Way and just seeing red and black flags and white and black flags, and all the way up to Wembley Way, and it was especially for someone like obviously watching the cup finals, and now you're seeing your team play at Wembley. It was
yeah,
it was magical, really magical, and it meant there was so much confidence that we could win it, but unfortunately, obviously, we didn't. But when you look 18 months previous to where we were, and it could have all been liquidated, and all of a sudden we're there at Wembley. So it was kind of I look back on it now as a celebration of the club surviving, really. But yeah, great day, magical day, and yeah, I just remember John Bailey scoring and doing the old Saturday Night Fever celebration when he when he scored, because there is a dodgy recording of the team singing "Staying There Live" going around somewhere, isn't there? So which
I think we
probably,
found it, didn't we?
yeah, we did find it, yeah. But yeah, magical day, just sad ending really to it.
how do you think that informed how the club moved on from that? How important was it for the club to have a day like that after what you've been through?
Yeah, massive. I mean, financially, what they made on I'm assuming they get some of the ticket sale money, and even though it's at Wembley and the merchandise, I think in Trevor's book in Cherries in the Red, he explains how the money coming in from the auto windscreen shield final kind of gave the club quite a bit of substantial money for the following
Yeah,
season,
yeah,
which yeah, I think we pushed for the playoffs that following season. I think we copped out on the last day against Wrexham. I think we had a 0-0 draw at Dean Court, and I think we needed to win it to sneak into sixth place, I think, and we only scraped a draw. So yeah, financially, it definitely benefited the club massively. just would have been nice to have that big shield in the cabinet. But saying that, they probably would have to buy a new cabinet to put that shield in, to be honest, because it was one hell of a big trophy.
It was huge, wasn't it? Yeah,
It was
it
huge,
was. Yeah,
massive.
yeah, yeah.
Well, the 1999-2000 season was the centenary season, and there was a game against Liverpool, and there's Eddie Howe in the centenary kit.
Yeah.
That was a pretty special day as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
definitely. Sorry, Andy, after you.
no. After you, go on, far away.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, to see a Premier League side play at Bournemouth, obviously, sometimes we'd have the odd Premier League side in friendly games, and that was the only time, obviously the only opportunity we got to see some, international stars play at Dean Court. But yeah, great night that was, and I do remember the centenary shirt causing a little bit of a stir because it was red and white stripes, but I've only got very vague memories on that. But yeah, the game itself, I remember it was an evening game, and yeah, it was great to see the likes of, I think, Sammy Hippier. I don't think Fowler played, but JB Redknapp, I think Titi Camara, their first choice keeper at the time, Dutch goalkeeper. But yeah, it was an excellent celebration. I remember we had like a band on the pitch before the game, a military band, I think, marching around the pitch, and yeah, great evening for a youngster that's got to see some Premier League players. It was a good memory.
It really, isn't it, that you're saying that when you're seeing that, when what do you see every week now?
Yeah,
When, I mean,
that's it.
that's we're talking about that like it was a one special little moment that's come and
Yeah,
gone, but boy, it's yours, filling your
yeah,
boots every flipping week now.
every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, every week. It's fantastic.
It's a nice shirt as well, isn't it? And there is a framed, signed shirt by the team that very day.
Yeah, it's got the town coat of arms on there as well, and the crest, and yeah, I mean, I can name quite a few from just looking at it, but yeah, it's signed by the squad that played that night. That's actually my dad's shirt that's on the wall in his dining room. I had that done for him. There was a guy that used to be involved in the club. I think he was Tony Pulis's kit man and did a bit of everything. Ken Sullivan, known as Nimbus. He got that done for me for my dad. But yeah, yes, pride and place in his dining room. But yeah, nice memory from a a celebratory season. But yeah, it's nice to
You
see
don't
it.
mind me saying, it's a bit Southampton Football Club-esque, isn't it? It's a bit Saints in there.
Yeah, but
Bit worrying that.
that's the original colours. That's Bournemouth's original
Yeah.
colours, and yeah, it did cause a stir at the time. I remember when they were selling it in the old red and black shack. We got a superstore now, and we used to have a shed.
Yeah, remember that.
And yeah, I remember when they were selling it, it caused a little bit of a stir, and I think a few fans boycotted it because of the red and white. But yeah, piece of history, I suppose, now, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've already mentioned Mel Machin, but like you say, he was here for such a pivotal time, really, wasn't he, Andy? And he took us to Wembley, of course, contended with the Winter Gardens, and as you say, he was ahead of his time.
Yeah, it was. And we've kind of reflected on it, haven't we? About that he was I remember him saying that this is when the pitch was the other way round or through 90 degrees, and there was
Yes.
and the banking up behind the goal and was just this long, huge run up there. I remember him standing there going, when I was a player here, I have run up and down that thing so many times you cannot believe. And it was very dilapidated in its final days. But it was the look on his face, the sheer memory of the pain of having run up and down that damn thing, which was the kind of standard fare, wasn't it, for pre-seasons? Pre-seasons in back in the day were not quite like they are now. You're not flying off to New York to play a game. were running up and down that damn thing. I mean, that was a different time entirely.
Yeah, massively. I mean, I spoke to a player, done an interview with a player from the 70s recently, which is due out on the channel soon, a player called David Stocks. And he spoke quite fondly of Mel Machin as a player and said that if Mel was playing in this day and age, he definitely would have been a Premier League player. So, yeah, he was a very good player as well by the sounds of it. And obviously he done well, didn't he? He managed City, Man City, didn't he? I think he gave Fergie a bit of a hiding, 5-0, didn't City beat United 5-0 when he was manager, if I remember rightly? And Barnsley as well, they reckon that he kind of laid the foundations for their Premier League rise in the late 90s. So he's quite well thought of within the managerial community.
And then, of course, as you've mentioned there, the old stadium was demolished. We moved over to Dorchester for a little while. And then, of course, the new stadium and the Kendando Stadium appeal took place. What was your memories of that, Andy?
Well, it was trying to get my head around what it was going to look like, but literally, I don't think many people have ever actually kind of turned a whole pitch kind of basically through 90 degrees, and what used to be was the sidelines, now the goal, and just trying to get your head around what was going on there. That took a bit. Well, it took a bit for me, but anyone knows me to realise that would stump me straight away. It was, and the Dorchester thing, like every club that has to, you're gonna change. You had no space, did you? You really had to do something quite innovative. I mean, it really was innovative. Others have done some really quite clever things since, but that as a solution to a problem you had, there was nowhere to go. You had to do it on your own doorstep. How the hell were we going to do it? Well, do you know what? I don't know. I can't remember the background of who came up with the idea and how that came about. But if you think about it, that was really neat and clever. And you use the space available to do something. But what was it like? And obviously it did have effect, I guess, on results. Of course, going to Dorchester. I mean, it's inevitable, isn't it, that that was going to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I remember, going down there every home game and it feeling like an away game, and but it never felt like home. Obviously, like with Brighton, obviously being away from the Goldstone for so long, and your home's not your home, is it? And when you're playing elsewhere. But I remember the first game we moved into the stadium, I think it was, 3 sides. I think we only had 2 sides open because the east stand was still being finished. So they opened up the stadium with just the main stand and the north stand, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
And we won 3-0, I think. Was it Brian Stock or Jason Tyndall, one of the first scorers? I think it was Brian Stock. Was it Brian Stock? Anyway, I remember winning it, but even then, it's still, you're getting adjusted to a new stadium and a new environment. You're used to seeing the South End where the main stand is now, and like you say, it was weird that you're playing differently. 90 degrees, and so it took some time to get used to. But obviously, moving into the new stadium did, I think, affect obviously where we ended up at the end of the season, because we were relegated, weren't we, that year? So yeah, I think it did have an impact, but unfortunately the old stadium had to be redeveloped. It was just not fit for purpose anymore, was it? I mean, the South End was getting worse and worse, and just the stadium as a whole was aging. I think the main stand was from an old steel structure from, was it an exhibition, a Wembley exhibition in 1920 something, and they moved it down to Dean Court and re-erected it. And so you think it done its time, and obviously we needed this new one, and yeah, unfortunately we just didn't get a fourth side for about 10 years because we were playing in the 3-sided stadium for 10 years. But it was unfortunately that season, it was sad getting, I think if I remember rightly, we got relegated at Wrexham on the last day of the season. But yeah, it was going to turn around anyway. It's going to turn a corner, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, most definitely they did. And of course, that following season, we come straight back. And
Yeah.
Andy, you said that you had no nerves. You know, I did, Matt did, but you had no nerves at all. Go on, tell us about
Well,
it.
it's not that, yeah, inevitably, especially when you're doing, I work for Sky Sports and a few other people, and now you're talking about national things, but your daily graft was based on a few teams. So of course you got connected to all of them, and while he went to each team saying, "Oh yeah, you can't like the others and the others," well, that didn't work like that. These were all teams, four, five, six of them. That was the grist to your mill every week. So of course you connected with them, and you got close to all of them. And brutally, it was, if they were doing well, it made your life really interesting and fun, because you walk into a club that is just buoyant. What's not to like? So um, I I just remember whenever you did, therefore you were investing a lot of yourself every time you went to a game where there was. You have to be a bit careful when both your sides were playing each other, but when one of them was your own, you really, really wanted them to win. Of course they did, because that was just the fun bit of it. But I just remember they played like it was a Brazil side. I just remember that game starting, and it was just the most fabulous football. And that feeling of tension usually lasted for me just as a reporter, um, let alone not a fan, but only a reporter, for the whole of the flipping game. I just remember going, "This is just amazing!" Suddenly, bang, goals were going in, and going, "How did they score those?" I mean, it was just a joy, a total joy to watch that game. I mean, there were some crackerjack goals scored, weren't there? I mean, it was wonderful.
Yeah,
It's one of my, just as a well, just enjoy this. This is going to be fun. That was my feeling that day. But then I wasn't a fan, if you see what I mean.
yeah, yeah. I just remember Fletcher's volley, bang,
Absolutely.
and I remember. I think we played Obviously, we played Lincoln during the season, but I don't think we had good results against them during the season. And I remember they had a 6 foot mountain of a defender in Ben Futcher, who I think he scored actually. And Fletcher was marking him set piece from a corner, and he was like their. I think he might have been their leading goal scorer at the time. He scored loads from centre back, so it was a case of, for me, going up there, and I remember saying to my dad and my brother, saying, let's hope this ain't like Wembley all over again, because you don't want to come back, heartbroken again. But yeah, they just turned it on, and pure pure style that day it was unbelievable to watch. I mean, I got the DVD of it, and sometimes when you look back at it, Carl Fletcher's performance. I think he was obviously mainly a midfielder, wasn't he? But I think he was playing centre back that day, because players like Carl
Yes,
Broadhurst were
yes, he
injured.
did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Sean Mayer was injured. I mean, there was a lot of injuries. Jason Tyndall was injured. Warren Feeney was injured.
yeah,
And we had Steve Purchase, who was effectively a fullback, playing in the centre midfield alongside Browning. And what Sean did with the amount of injuries as well that season was phenomenal. Really, there's a lot
yeah,
of players
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And of course, the Sean O'Driscoll era, and there he is with the trophy as well. Um, you know, he didn't do badly, did he? Of course, got that promotion. How did you find Sean?
Oh, so I really, really liked him. Very dry. Again, not one of not um, a showboater at all. But knew what he wanted. You knew where you stood with him. Fine by us. I think it was testament to the style of football he played, that the kind of loanees that you got, the people you got on loan,
Mm,
big clubs didn't send their little young superstars to any old club. They wanted to know that they were going to be taught the right way. The principles were going to be right. It's not surprising that some very tasty players ended up playing as loanees and that's because of him, because of what his principles were. I think that's a testament to what he did for the club as well.
Most
yeah.
definitely.
definitely.
Most definitely. And of course, we've had this man on actually, and we spoke to him about his hat trick.
Yeah.
But you were there that night, and of course, the James hates a hat trick. You know, a resounding win anyway, but it was just the cherry on the cake, wasn't it? So excuse the pun.
Because James's mum and dad missed it, didn't they? Because they had to get
Yeah.
They
back to
did,
the Isle of
yeah.
Wight.
Yeah.
Well, we nearly did because the battery was going on our camera and we're going, oh, don't worry, it'll be all right. No more goals. Oh my goodness. that nearly got missed. That's the one. That, you want to say that I was not nervous when you went to Cardiff? When this happened, the consequences of if we hadn't have actually recorded it were just have been frightening. So actually, that I'm more petrified about seeing that moment than I am about any your playoff success, because it technically it nearly was a bit of carnage for us. So that's all I've got to say about it.
And then, of course, we went on to -17, and 3 managers, Kevin Bond, of course, Jimmy Quinn, and then Sir Eddie Howe, as I like to call him now. But that season was a roller coaster, and you know how how did you find, firstly, having those changes in the managers, how did you find each of those?
um, they kind of came and went at a rate, didn't they? So we it's interesting because we knew all of them because and the sports team, because they've all been very connected to other clubs in our area as well. So they were very familiar. Uh, but again, it's that kind of thing. It's not going well. You've got to ask the right questions. I mean, what are we? What was the role of regional TV?
Hmm.
You've got to ask the difficult questions.
Yeah.
We're not the PR and marketing team of the club, much to the annoyance of chairman and managers sometimes. Why aren't you saying nice things about us? Well, because it's not going very well. So and in a sense, you're incredibly privileged as the spokesperson for fans. You're often asking, it's the questions that every fan wants to know. Why, what, where, how. So that's when in that kind of turmoil and when that's going up and down like that. You tread carefully, but you have to ask the right questions about what's going wrong, what's happening that's causing this volatility. And then you've got someone who is, Eddie was the youngest manager
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
30 nothing, wasn't he? What age was he? I'm
Uh,
trying to think.
was
I'm
he?
trying to think now how.
30,
I think.
31. I reckon he's
Yeah.
31, 30,
Yeah.
31.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, actually. I'll tell you why, because, I haven't seen him at Portsmouth when he got that opportunity to go and play, um, and it's interesting now when everyone's talking about, England management or whatever, and how he's doing at Newcastle and how he's going to deal with the big stars and all the rest of it. Well, I don't think we ever saw how good Eddie really, really could have been
Mhm.
before he had that. That was a pre-season injury at Portsmouth. I mean, that was a shocker. That we went back. We talked about the professional, the career ender, or the we don't sit behind a desk and that, because that's not going to happen to us. But that kind of actually did happen to Eddie, and the opportunity then created for him, but he made that. Nothing was given, but clearly was always incredibly smart and bright and intelligent about how he played his football. But I'd love to know how good he was going to how good he would have been as a player at the highest level. I really would.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would
Definitely.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was definitely a talent, wasn't he? And unfortunately, he never got tested at the Premier League, and really cruel in pre-season to have the nasty injury that he had, and
Yeah.
he never really fully recovered. I mean, I think he retired at 29, didn't he? And he became like Bondi's player coach. I think he was looking after the reserves and
Yeah.
things like that. And I mean, 29, and he had such talent, but just that injury at Pompey, he never ever got over, did he? Unfortunately, and but yeah, I mean, it's a funny old season, that -17 season. I mean, I think we were owned by a consortium called Sport 6, I think they were called. And they sacked Bondy, probably in fairness, a little bit too early. Eddie was still part of Kevin's backroom staff at the time.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Quinn come in, and I mean, I've read Darren Addington's autobiography, and he just completely disillusioned the squad when he was there, by the sounds of it. He's getting them to do strange activities, and like I think Darren mentions a boxing activity he took them on in his book. And I just think Jimmy just didn't get it at Bournemouth. I don't think. I mean, I know he managed at Swindon and other places, but I don't really know how he did there. But at Bournemouth, I mean, the football was quite, from what I can remember, dire is probably the word I would use. But yeah, strange. But if these things never happen, then obviously Eddie wouldn't have got the nod, would he?
The rest, as they say, is history. But my goodness, wow! So there was so that game, that goal. So I'm now working away from TVS and Meridian. I'm working at Sky Sports now right at this point. But I'm about to come back into this kind of regional area because I was still doing the Soccer Night program, but ITV had lost the contract, and BBC are going to pick it up. And so my company, which sounds very grand, it's me and a few of my mates and people I've got together, started making the late kickoff program for the BBC.
Oh,
So right through this period, so I'm the producer of this program, but I also made sure that I just love reporting. So if there was a good story to do, I made sure I nabbed it so I could go and do that as well. So I'm coming to this just after the event. So I'm still a bit of a spectator. I'm not working now. I just remember this because it was so the words you couldn't write it obviously spring to mind. And of all the people in all the world, it had to be him. The one thing we haven't said is he was always Steve was always the one who would be prepared to do the pre-match interview when we were on at 6:20 or so. He was prepared before a match to turn up and be asked all the usual questions. Well, how's he going to go today? What are they supposed to say, for goodness sake? I mean, some of the rubbish questions I've asked in my time. You might as well say ready, steady, go and say something. All I remember, all of the TV producers always remember is the knots on his ties just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and you like extraordinary. But it was the one thing that everyone. So in my earpiece, as everyone's going right, oh my goodness, that tie's got bigger. There would be abuse being held at me about Fletcher's sartorial elegance, which you'll probably hate me for saying right now because.
Well, what a goal it was, and it was the goal that kept us in the Football League. And the big man, he is a legend. And in fact, when I spoke to him actually about this, and that he was going to come back, of course, him and Eddie Howe were very good friends, and it was a case that Eddie gave him a call and he said, "I want you back." And he's like, hold on a second, I've got to go and speak to Steve Evans about this. Yeah, I want you back. But he is such a great ambassador for this football club. He lives, breathes Bournemouth, doesn't he?
An extraordinary bloke and normal. No, that's the wrong word. Doing you a disservice there, Fletch. Just of the people of his profession, he knows what it's about. We've given him a video camera before for the late kickoff program to see, what is a day like. Well, he was dropping his kids off at ballet school and then going to the match or whatever. I mean, and we've seen him in so many places and ways and means, always ready to help us. just an absolute decent bloke and a flipping good footballer. Um, uh, who told me? I mean, he was one of the best defenders you had, because if the ball was getting lumped out, just to clear the decks, get it out of the penalty area, you knew that if it was anywhere near him, it was going to stick. And that was the moment, the time for everyone to regroup and be able to get out and be able to start, trying to play around it. As a focal point, there aren't many like him. Can't really, it's hard to put into words because legend is pretty much terribly overused, but he really is a legend, really was, and
And
is,
he still
and
is.
is.
I've got a absolutely lovely story about Fletch a couple of years back. My late friend Al Guard, who's sadly now passed away, was over. He thought it was going to be his last time to Dean Court, and he said, "I'm going to go have a walk round the ground for the last time." He told me he was doing it, and I got onto Fletch and I said, "Fletch, is there anything we can do?" And he said, "Yeah, get him to come in, watch the training session. I'll take him round so he can go and sit in the press chair and everything." And that is what Steve Fletcher is all about. He did that off his own back for a fan of this football club. And, I'll be forever grateful to him for doing that for my friend. And, it was just what he's such a great ambassador for this football club. We're very, very lucky to have him, and not every club has a big Fletch. A lot of clubs have heroes, but they don't have legends like Fletch is ours.
No, definitely, I echo that. Yeah,
And that point about being the centre of a community,
Mhm.
the club is, well, actually, Big Fletcher's as well, and that sense of giving back and being a fundamental part of the community and what it means and what it stands for. It's all in that guy.
yeah. Born in Hartlepool, but definitely a Bournemouth boy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, we've adopted him. He's not going back to Hartlepool. He's always to here. um, and of course, we clinched promotion the year after the Great Escape Part 2. So against Burton Albion, and actually there was a lovely shirt as well, wasn't there? It was just on the way to 1899 bar, wasn't it? You used to go up the stairs that Burton Albion gave us, and that is such a good memory. Getting promotion after having that fear that if we drop out the football league, we're not going to exist.
So my memories of that are one being at the game, two that shot you got of Brett Pittman as he's run past me and the cameraman. He's just skimmed past us as he's gone by. We're right by the goal mouth. We
Yeah.
saw that ball coming straight at us, and I suppose that's one. These are odd and simple things that I've just remembered. You could hear it come off his foot.
Mm.
Because of where we're in, I've been lucky to watch football in some really, really weird places, but some very privileged places. Being by that goal mouth, as that as a pro, like a golfer or a cricketer, it just sounds different when it comes off someone's foot. It's that ping, that sound. Even the smell of the grass. Interesting. I had a mate who came, and an editor, a video editor, who wanted to come with us to a game, and he said, I've watched football all these years. Because of where you stand, you actually smell the grass. Because you're up in the stand, you never do." And I said, "I never even thought about that." But it's the sound and to be that close to what was happening, and in that moment, meaning so much, to be literally face to face. The camera, it's funny. It's a guy called Luke Bird. He's a brilliant cameraman. To keep Brett in focus as the goal, he followed the goal and the run. He got the shot. It's all coming towards him. He's having to crank the focus on this damn camera, and it was pin sharp as he goes screaming by him. So just even as a TV moment, it was something. There was a brilliant professional next to me, actually did an amazing job. But to be there, oh wow, that was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And this was the late kickoff program now, so I've gone over from ITV all these years to the BBC, which is quite funny for me. It was we did a Roy of the Rovers cartoon to start it, saying,
Yeah.
you couldn't make this up even as a cartoon from from saving relegation, all about Eddie Howe coming in, saving them from relegation and disappearing out of the Football League to this moment. And the artistry, the guy did it was absolutely superb. But that's how we started the film about that Burton album, about that game. We started with a Roy of the Rovers styly cartoon, because that's what it was. That really was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely was. It was yeah, it was a great season for what I can remember, but that day just obviously capped it off. And Eddie was really starting to demonstrate what a manager, I think,
Yeah.
kind of what manager he was going to become eventually. He's still
Yeah,
learning, but the job he did with those players was fantastic.
Yeah. I'll mention one thing, and that's about and goals and Brett Pittman. Wow, gosh.
Yeah.
How many goals did he score that year? It was
I think it was 20. Was it 20?
20, I've got 25 plus. That was my note I gave myself, but I think it was more.
Yeah, I shall let you know in 1 second.
Yeah. But he's whichever level he's been at, Brett Pittman, he scored goals, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yes.
And do you know what? One thing that really, it's always been on my mind is that how he didn't get the chance in the Premier League, because he would have scored goals there as well. He would have scored goals in the top flight as well, because he was so prolific. He knew where the back of the net was. He was a real poacher, but a clever player as well, isn't he?
The only thing about know where the goal is, if you ask someone to then, okay, now explain what that meant, I don't think many people could. I don't think it's just a reality that being in the right place at the right time, you can't teach that. You either got it or you haven't. And you see the players who can, and if someone knows better or could say, yeah, no, they've got this and X and Y. But I don't think so. That sheer innate feel for how to score a goal and that composure thing that goes with it. I think the thrill of doing it, of scoring goals, of course, but actually, the pressure of being there and you have to put that ball away. That's a heck of a skill. That's a mentally very strong person.
Yeah.
It was 26 league goals and 28 in all competitions that season.
Wow.
Big figure. I forgot it was that high, to be honest. But
yeah,
I mean, I think at times he got a bit of unfair stick, because I know a few fans and friends of mine thought he was a lazy player, but I would take a lazy player all day with the finishing skills of Brett Pittman, because he knew where the goal was, and that's what you need from your striker. And
yeah.
I the thing like what you've said, Craig, I would love to have seen him just make one appearance in the Premier League, just so he could have said he played in all professional divisions for Bournemouth. But I think at the time, Eddie Howe was probably fair to him and said, look, you're not going to really feature, and they probably needed space on the wage structure. So, he was sacrificed, wasn't he? And he went on to Ipswich and scored goals there, and he's still scoring goals now, isn't he? He's at, where's he now? He
was at Portchester last season.
He's at Portchester. He was at, he's somewhere now. I mean, I think last season, I think he scored more goals than Haaland. So, I mean, he still knows how to score goals, doesn't he? But yeah, again, another great player for the football club, and lots of fond memories of watching Brett play.
Just to answer your question, he's now a club called Baffin's Milton Rovers, and no doubt he's banging them in for them as well. And of course, Eddie Howe. Wow. What an absolute legend. From the first time you met him, Andy, did you envisage, I asked everybody this question, to be honest, about Eddie Howe. And people must think, oh, he's asking that same question again. But did you envisage from the first time you met him what he was going to go on and do?
We've had this conversation about that, we never saw him as the footballer. I think he and the level he could have played at. So in a sense, it was forced upon him. But why did Eddie always look kind of hurried when he was a centre half? Why? Because he was always in the right place. We're talking about goal scorers, but the reason that centre halves look, like Van Dijk is another one I suppose that comes to mind. They're always in the right place. They're not sliding in. They're not diving. It's not heroics. It's not harem scarum stuff because they have read the game so well. And
Yeah.
I think that was probably perhaps something that you would certainly associate with Eddie. So if you've got that to be able to read a game, you've got something, haven't you? I think
Hmm.
your tactical acumen means you are already two steps ahead. Well, guess what? That's what managers are made of as well, aren't they? And especially in the style and it is the way he manages as well. But that he always conducted himself. He was such a calm, intelligent, brilliant interviewer. Because of course okay, you've got to get an interview today, and you go down to the training ground, and there's two or three you're aiming for, because you're going to get something that's worth it. Well, top of our list, and it would have been the BBC and ITV, but always going to be Eddie and Big Fletch, of course. But it was going to be one or the other because you knew you were going to get something that was worth listening to. So his consideration and how he talked about football always there. His reading of the game as a footballer in that was obvious. It's funny we did a behind the scenes piece when Bonnie was the manager, and so he was the assistant who was doing all the step and fetching at the time. So it was fascinating seeing him kind of having to fill in all the gaps. And who was late? One player was late, and it was Eddie had to go and run around and find him. And we got the cameras there at the time. We were kind of we managed to edit it in such a way that it didn't look like it was such a mistake by said player. I can remember who it is, and I'm not going to say who. Um, but but there was Eddie, doing the graft behind the scenes at that point. But when he got hold of it, because when you become a manager, it's not a coach. When you become a manager, that's a whole mind game thing as well, isn't it? How you're trying to get the best out of a squad of 15, 20, whatever. You've that kind of way you're going to mold and change to get the best out of different people. One size doesn't fit all, and he knew how to get the best out of everyone, and that's really, really thinking. And it's obvious now, isn't it? Absolute class, total class.
I think I know which player it was. I'm sure I can recollect actually that very, very video at the time. But again,
Oh,
I won't say who it is. But the Cherries are an astonishing club, aren't they? Really, and you've got so many memories, Andy, of following the club. How often do you get back to Dean Court nowadays? Do you go back every now and again?
I've been back for 5 years now. No, I haven't. And that's a real disappointment because no, I haven't, and that reminds me I've got to go back because of all the clubs. I would say this, wouldn't I? But I don't have to. Um, I think it's the one that well, you just used my words, haven't I? That I sent you in an email, and there
Yeah,
you go. I
yeah,
stand by
yeah,
that. That's the Cherries as a club, astonishing. Always glad to be in it in the moment. Always doing it right. Never built big or real or imaginary wars. And boy, there's some clubs that have done that. Gone. Things have suddenly got good for them, and
Mhm,
suddenly they are all the they are they are the wannabes. Not the wannabes. They think they are the real deal. Never felt it was ever yours by some preordained right. And we talked about Henry in the last few minutes about you've been through some grim times, and
mhm.
that informs and that burns deep in a club that's been through that. And in a sense, you don't want to go back over it and go, woe is us, but it's a thing to fight for. What you were saying, you don't want to go back to that ever again, do you? And I hear people talking about chairman and the owners, they're custodians of a club. They're not there for all time, but there is a custodianship. Now, with it, we're all saying as fans, oh, we want some more money, we want a new player. I mean, it's not like you haven't splashed out this year on a new striker and things like that. It's you want to be, you want more, you want better, but we're not putting the money in. The sums now are crazy, but in the end of it, their reign, whoever's reign it is, will end, and there will be a new custodian of a club, and that sense of being a custodianship, I hope, is big and strong in the Cherries, because it always has been. But that's how it is. There's one story I do want to tell you about, and about being a really decent club. John Harris, your groundsman for many years.
Yes.
I've got to tell you the one story. This is absurd and quirky, but even so, he saved my marriage. It was a freezing cold night. I cannot remember the game, and I'm on the other side of where the camera gantry is, and I've come across, and I walked across the pitch when that was taking a risk, wasn't it? After a match, I mean, I can't believe I wasn't balled out for doing that. And I'd taken the old ski gloves off. It was that cold, to get me pen and pad out, and we're going to do the post-match interviews, and we've done them, and everything's chatting about, but it takes a while. And John comes in and says, look what I found on the pitch. And that was my wedding ring. He found it. How big's a flipping pitch? And he's doing the forking, and he's found the damn thing. I was like, and I looked at my finger and go, oh my God, that's mine. So can I just also say thank you? And I'm still married to my beloved wife. But it all could have gone horribly wrong after that. But we shouldn't leave it at that. I stand by what I say there. A very, very, very special club that has been through hard times and is just fun to be around. It's been amazing, and a privilege for me to be part of it.
Honestly, Andy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. And I'm an Only Fools and Horses fan, and one of the things from Only Fools and Horses is, even though, yeah, it's amazing where we are now, sometimes when you look back at the journey, sometimes the fun part was actually getting here, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's not for me to say. That's for you to say, because
Yeah.
and for and the fans of the Cherries, who have, what do you believe and what do you stand for? Because you've got something very, very special, and for goodness sake, enjoy it just rip it up while you're playing the kind of football you are, and how you're actually causing. Every year you're causing some big clubs some real headaches, and it's quite fun, isn't it? It's quite fun.
Oh
Those big
yes,
wars, you're knocking a few of them down as well, aren't you?
definitely.
Yeah. If you asked me that in 2008, would Bournemouth be in the Premier League? Like I said, I'd say you're absolutely bonkers. So it's been
Absolutely.
such a journey. But Andy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on this cherry picking. And thank you so much for coming on. And no doubt we'll catch up very, very soon.
Thank you for having me. Loved it.
A pleasure. Thank you so much. Well, Matt, very, very interesting, and remembering all those moments. And of course, we got shared with us quite a few that we didn't know because we weren't behind the camera at the time.
Yeah, I mean, Andy, for me, like I say, back in, my school years, and before the days of the internet, you had CEEFAX and you had Andy Steggall, really, apart from the Daily Echo. So, in my formative years, he was a massive source of my information each day and each week to, on the club, and his soccer programs he did for ITV and that as well. Were always good. I always remember being allowed to stay up late to watch them.
Yeah.
So a real honour to have Andy on here tonight. It's been great, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to his stories, and hopefully we'll be able to welcome him on again at some point in the future.
Most definitely, most definitely. Everybody, if you haven't, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button, because it does help this channel to grow. Also, do remember we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts from. We're on them all. So do make sure you subscribe to us on all available channels, and you can become a channel member if you want. Again, all the details are just in the main channel page. But from myself and from Matt, thank you for joining us on another cherry picking. We shall see you in the next video.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.